finally, after hours and hours of writing out your MIDI drum line, you press play and you hear the most robotic sounding performance of your life. You want to bash your head against the wall, but you know there's gotta be another way, because if the pros do it, then surely you can. And you're absolutely right. Today, we'll be talking about how to take a MIDI drum track and make it sound like a person actually played it. What is up, Yoshis? My name is Beth and I run Steadfast Ascent. It is so good to see you here. I have got 3 tips for you today to take your MIDI drum sounds from being totally lifeless, totally sounding like you just programmed it, to actually sounding alive, vibrant, and dynamic. The most important thing you can do for your MIDI drums is to humanize them. Now in Logic, this is super easy because you just go into the MIDI transform button and you choose Humanize, select and operate. And what this does is it takes the perfect quantization and it shifts it a little bit to sound a little more human and a little bit less like a robot hitting exactly on the dot of every single metronome click. And it also changes the velocity of each and every single one of your hits so that it doesn't sound like the robot who is again hitting at precisely 98 velocity per whatever. And with this feature alone, your MIDI drums will sound so much better. Now, if you're not in Logic, I'm pretty sure the other DAWs have that system. GarageBand did not, so I spent most of my music career manually doing each and every one of these things. Yeah, it was kind of a pain in the butt. And yeah, I'm really grateful for Humanize. You could also use something like Randomize. It does the same thing, it's just a little bit less algorithmic, and so it might not sound as human. Humanizing is great when you're just programming the sounds in. If you actually record on an electric set, you don't need to worry about humanizing because recording should be capturing the nuances of your human play. The next thing I would recommend is based on a mistake I made early on, which was I would have all my parts in one track and I'd be trying to EQ the kick and the snare and the toms and the cymbals all within one freaking track. You know, it worked. But what I do now is I split each part of the drum kit into its own separate track. And so I have a kick track, I have a snare track, I have a toms track, and I have a cymbals track. What this does is it allows me to specifically choose not only the instrument preset that I'm using, so I'm not trapped using the same MIDI drum sound for the entire kit. I can pick and choose my instruments, which you should absolutely do, but it also allows me to do number 3, which is to specifically mix each piece. So for each of them, I pretty much just go through, I throw a preset on. So for example, I look inside of the channel EQ and I'm like, yes, kick drum refresh, that sounds great. I listen to it in the mix, I try another one if it doesn't sound good, I tweak it if it does sound mostly okay, and then I move on to the next part. One thing I will say for the snare is that I like to put a delay on it. Usually in Logic I use Space Designer because I find that the delay allows there to be an extra snap to my snares, which makes them pop more in the mix. Toms, it's the same thing, you just throw a preset on there, and for cymbals, same thing. Splitting up your tracks is really important for your mix though because it allows you to move up and down on the volume and pan, which is where most of your mixing should be, to get the sounds that you're actually looking for in your mix. So I don't like a lot of cymbals in my mix, and now I don't have to sacrifice the sound of my cymbals in order to get more snare. I just throw the volume slider on up and it's wonderful. So if there's anything I'm missing on making your MIDI drums come to life, you should let me know in the comments. All of these tips are mostly pertinent to punk drumming because that's what I know. I mean, I'm sure they'll work for other peeps, but yeah, what genre are you writing in? And before you leave, if you would be so kind and let us know if this video was helpful by giving us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you are interested in seeing more videos about recording. Next week there will be another video up on recording drums. And before you leave, if you would let us know in the comments what other issues you're running into as you try to use MIDI drums, or if there's anything else that we have missed. As always, thanks for watching.